Alright, hi. So this video is about raising consciousness, something I'm doing right now, um, and just the slow process of that, and like the difficult process of that. I'm just going to talk about how that is. Slow and kind of difficult and kind of complicated as well. Um, so I've been doing that today, and it's really kind of boring. Um, so most of the time, like yesterday, I spent all day on my phone, and like it's pretty embarrassing, but like I was like watching porn all day. So yeah, that's really embarrassing to say, but it's the truth. And I don't do that all the time, but I will do that when it's like a really, I don't know, when I get like really terrible um, pain, or like, I don't know about pain, but like this like horrible feelings, you know? So it's kind of like a distraction basically. And so that would be like a regular, not, that's not a regular day, but that's like, that was an abnormal day actually yesterday. But a regular day would be just like on my phone, like back and forth from phone to computer to um, back to phone to doing another thing to doing another thing to back to phone to this to that. And so it's just like basically like that dopamine, burnt out dopamine circuits reward loop or whatever. And so like to raise your consciousness, like you have to get away from your phone, you have to get away from the computer, you have to get away from constant distraction, you have to basically just be bored. And so um you know, at least that's what it is at first, because my consciousness is like really super low, I would say. Um, and my vibration is really low, I would say. Although at times I can like experience higher vibrations, but um, yeah, not often. And just to be like more clear about what that means, it's like lower vibrations is just like sadness and shame and depression and anxiety and fear, anger. Those are like lower vibrations. And then higher vibrations, that's like you're just feeling calm, relaxed, energized, curious, loving, at peace. Those would be more like higher vibrations. And I do believe that most people are kind of at a lower vibration generally. I don't think it's everybody, of course, but yeah, so that's kind of how I feel things are for me. But anyways, to break through, kind of, you could say break through to like a higher vibration is to just allow yourself to be bored. Just like let the boredom come, you know. Another technique is like meditation, but being bored is kind of like a little similar. It's not quite, but like I just sort of, basically I just try and like allow myself to just be very minimally stimulated by high stimulation stuff, like which I usually do, which is like I usually watch like YouTube videos, like constantly searching through the endless doom scrolling, the endless feed, looking for something else. So like constantly scrolling, and it's just like my brain is just like caught in that searching loop, right? Um, and subconsciously, like, I'm looking for connection and sex and um like, I don't know, something like that, like, or even violence, like violent videos, like um sexually arousing like pictures or videos, and just like, or interesting things, like, like, so anyways, the internet just has like that buffet, right? But it's kind of like a haunted buffet. I don't know if that even makes sense, but it's like there's a lot of zombies at that buffet. Because, just like you have to be like dead to keep eating there. You trade your consciousness. Um, and then, so the other thing that I've noticed is just like, so there is the boredom, which is kind of good because I feel like bored, but then I'll start to feel like a little bit of creativity as well. Like my mind is just trying to entertain itself in a way which is what it normally would naturally do. And it does this really well when we're kids. We have like a ton of imagination, creativity. And now that I'm old, 30 years old, depending on who you ask, that's old or it's young, but um, I mean, I believe I'm grown up. So now that I'm grown up, my imagination is just like kind of shot in a way. I mean, it's still slightly there, but it's kind of shot in a way. Um, and I think it like sort of sparks up and comes back just slightly when I'm bored, so I can kind of feel that, and it's actually kind of a nice feeling. Like it's kind of an enjoyable feeling. So yeah, but I've also heard this is like the default mode network of the brain coming back online, which is like, before we had all this like crazy amounts of entertainment at our fingertips, which we can't resist, for most people. Um, we used to just kind of like go into the default mode network, which is like apparently like your brain's one, like a state in your brain where you just kind of like take in the world around you and just sort of kind of like relax and feel kind of okay with things and whatever. So that's sort of what's happening, but I'm only on my like second or third day of doing this, and yeah, so I'm not trying to bite off everything at once, because this leads me to my next point of trying to do too much too fast when it comes to raising consciousness is actually, I'm at risk for psychosis. Like, I believe I have it or have had it in the past. And sometimes I can tell when I'm sort of like spiraling or feeling like kind of like a psychotic feeling. Like, I don't fully know how to perfectly describe it, but it's almost like I can tell. And it's really unpleasant. It's very unpleasant. I've sort of learned what to do a little bit, which is to just kind of like let it happen, ride it out, kind of thing. Do very little, like do small things if I can, and allow myself to kind of come back in a way to just a more like, I don't know what is non-psychotic, but like a normal frame of thinking and of being. So I just have to be careful about that when I'm doing this consciousness work, and like, it is kind of playing with fire. That's the thing about this sort of consciousness work or spiritual work, which consciousness work is spiritual work. Um, Essentially, like, they're essentially the same thing. Is that it can actually be dangerous, on like a spiritual level. So I think going slow, not like trying to like rush everything and like, you know, just trying to remain somewhat stable is really important too, because it can be too much. It can really be too much, and you know, it's like kind of like, I would maybe compare it to going to the gym a little bit, or I would compare it to um, you know, building a skill. And the thing about it is that it can be done over a number of days, a number of weeks, number of months, number of years, and it doesn't have to all be done in one day or at one moment, right? Like, and I think this can kind of make people really upset to hear this, I think, um, because, yeah, I think that, yeah, it can just be a pretty, um, how do I even put this? It can be a pretty um, challenging thing, or enticing thing, or like, um, it can be a lot. Like, it's the best way I can put it. So it's good to like take it slow and um, just appreciate, the little bit of progress that I made, or that you made, just with trying, um, a few things each day. So kind of like smaller changes, and they're really good. And I do think that, like, I think that that's more the proper way to do it anyway, because yeah, I I don't know. I don't know how to get off this topic, but oh, okay. So it's also, the reason it's also like playing with fire too is because this involves every person. Really, it does. Um, and what I mean by that is that every person is at a level of consciousness, um, and it's actually really hard and painful sometimes to change your level of consciousness. Partly due to attachment difficulties, previous traumas, you know, uh, emotional difficulties, maybe even mental disorders or illnesses. Um, and all of these things can really come up when doing this consciousness work, because it's like, um, you're basically activating all of these things in people. If you talk about it, you're activating your own, like, attachment wounds and style too. Like, I can feel my attachment pain come up when I try and do like consciousness work, because consciousness work, like growing consciousness for me, like being bored, it makes me feel like all that pain and everything that I'm carrying, and what do I normally do when I feel that pain is I go to distraction, you know, numbing through the internet, and um, yeah, it can be really painful. Like, I felt it today actually when I was just lying on the ground trying to let my mind just be bored and wander, and I felt like this, like, these, like, just like pains, like, and that I can't really describe very well, but it's like kind of like an emotional pain, or like kind of like a, I just want to go do something, or like, like an inner conflict type of pain, like struggle, like inside, like, um, and in a way, I kind of feel like I broke through that a bit, but then it's like once you break through it, then it can come back, like, pretty quickly. So it's not like you can't do it all in one day, like, again. But the the attachment difficulty thing is real, and that's like one of the hardest ones, because um this whole like consciousness work and whatever, you know um it can feel really, really lonely and hard to do, because um it's like you really want to share it with somebody. Like, it's really tricky. I don't know how to fully put it, but it's like it can bring up like attachment pains, like almost like you want somebody there, or you want to tell somebody about it, and you want to be excited with somebody about it. And Yeah, it's really tough. So, because when you do that, like, if, like, let's say if you do that, if you do share it with somebody, and it's, I don't know about the wrong person, but if it's like somebody who's, um, yeah, I would say also kind of like, I don't want to put anyone down, but I do think this is a fact that a lot of people are in like a really low consciousness state. You can really trigger people. It can really make them angry. They can put you down. They can call you names. They can launch into their previous stories and cautionary tales, and basically just try and convince you, don't mess with that, don't do that, this is terrible, all these things. And it's like that can be really scary. I'm serious. um and yeah, that's that's a real thing. That's a real thing. And essentially, what it is that these people are, a lot of people are at a lower consciousness level, and the conversation can become really volatile, I feel, with some people, because um, it just can really trigger people, I think. Because when people are suffering or have suffered, and you activate like that pain or whatever, that suffering, um, activate their fight or flight, or activate their different responses or whatever, it can really make people angry. I also think that the whole demons thing is real too, because like, I'm a Christian, so um, I believe in, heaven, hell, God, the devil, angels, and demons. And I think that another reason why you have to be really careful, or I have to be careful with this consciousness work, is because it is, like I said before, kind of like, almost feels like playing with fire in a way. Like, so I used to follow this guy, Leo Gura, and I think I talked about this already, but I'll say it again. I used to follow him, and he was like this guru type of guy, and he was always excellent at being vague, just vague enough, that like, you could never really like understand like which category he fell into. And he's been accused of being like a cult leader a lot, and but then he's also got some very fervent followers. And um like, and personally, I think I do feel like I benefited somewhat from listening to him, but I also feel like it isolated me a lot too, because I had no one to talk to about it. And I checked up on his like blog, and like recently, like a few days ago he wrote that we're supposed to love demons, and then he was like making, or like he was, talking bad about Christianity. And I'm just like, that's completely crazy. Like that's over. That's not good. Like, um, yeah. And so I think the thing I gotta remember too is that I just have to remain humble, um, and give all glory and praise to Jesus Christ and to God the Almighty and to the Holy Spirit, because though that because um, the the Trinity or the Godhead is the true God. I believe that, and that's my faith. And so, like doing this kind of like consciousness work and whatever, talking to people about this stuff can be really triggering to people. And I do even believe it could be really triggering to Christians. And I think it's hard to like discern, whether they're just trying to look out for you if you tell them about this stuff, or if, they're just, at a very low consciousness level themselves, right? And so basically just saying why it's like really hard. It's really hard to do this stuff. Okay. And then so here's like I guess a last kind of thing would be vibrating at different frequencies. Like I kind of believe that that is what happens when you raise your consciousness. Like you'll be vibrating at a different frequency. um you'll experience, and I don't know this like all from like firsthand knowledge, I'm just kind of on what I believe about it. Although I feel like I've been at higher frequencies at certain times in my life, but when you're vibrating at a higher frequency, you'll notice differences in the world. Your actual perception and your awareness will change, and it kind of changes like almost like everything. Like, and you'll notice these differences, but you won't really be able to like. You kind of have to take it on faith, really, that there are these different levels, because you can't really understand it at a lower level. Like if you're at like a very low level of consciousness or conscious awareness, then you're not really gonna know what the differences are, because they're partially to do with your own expectations and your own just feelings. I would say feelings is like one of the most important parts about it, because the way you feel about something really changes like everything. And it's hard to describe because that's got to do with your what frequency you're vibrating at. And so yeah, so it that's that's an important point I had to make. But yeah, that's sort of what I've been doing, and making this vlog. I feel like it's important because it allows me to kind of like express a little bit, and um, somewhat feel like I'm not just all like in my head, like isolated, alone, and whatever, because that is the worst. That is super bad. So yeah, so I'm just gonna keep trying to do this kind of consciousness work, and the main thing I talked about a lot, but the main thing too is just that it's kind of boring for right now. It's just kind of boring. I'm just sort of struggling through the boredom, through the um, I don't know if they're like, I don't know what it is, but sometimes I just get like, I don't know if it's like psychosis is the right word or like what, but I wouldn't say like it happens every day, but around every day I sometimes feel just kind of like dizzy. I feel like I need to lie down. I feel tired. I can't really put my thumb on what exactly it is. And yeah, so that's really hard, feeling that. But yeah, yeah. I would say the thing I'm most excited about for this, like the thing that I look forward to the most about this like consciousness work stuff, is actually just being connected to other people. Um, Partly why I've been, or like what's been keeping me in this like really low consciousness state has been like shame or like separation from people. And at a higher consciousness state, you just naturally feel more connected to people. And that's our natural way of being, I believe. Um, Feeling naturally more connected. That's also actually what is naturally we are made for, is a connection to God. And so there's kind of something there, really. But feeling naturally more connected and, you know, just feeling at ease and at peace around other people, that's what I'm really looking forward to. And um, yeah, so that's like a higher consciousness state. And then a lower consciousness state is just like being constantly in battled, or in a battle with people. And then a very low consciousness state is feeling isolated, and feeling cut off, isolated, or even like wanting to eliminate yourself, um, and also feeling like humiliated, or like uh, persecuted, or paranoid, or suspicious. Those are all quite low consciousness things. But I've been in those for like my whole life, basically, especially the shame one. But like that's got to do with, and I feel like I'll talk about it because why not? I got time here. That's got to do with being bullied throughout school and at home, and it's also got to do with my own parents' traumas, which they passed on to me. And my dad wasn't around. When he was there, he beat up my mom, um, and my mom was had no stable ground in her own life, her own emotional life. So she was constantly blowing up on people and just like screaming bloody murder a lot in the house, just like blood curdling screaming, and just constantly in states of like fighting. And then there were just like these like states of like vegging out in front of the TV, and then there'd be like huge fights. And then so it was like really toxic, the household I grew up in. So it left me with CPTSD, which is like complex PTSD. And you know it's really difficult, but that's like it's like a low consciousness state of being. And it's also really tough because it's actually in the nervous system too. Like my nervous system holds a lot of that, and so I will just start getting a high heartbeat. Like my heartbeat will like race, sometimes for no reason, sometimes when I'm just like around people, sometimes when I feel like there's going to be a conflict coming up, even if it's just like not really, or if it's just like a small thing. And then there's like all these like different like triggers and stuff, which I'm just like always trying to suppress and manage, right? Because that's how I survived. That's how I've learned how to survive. So complex PTSD, it puts you in like a state of survival, which is basically like a constant state of fear, and it's your nervous system trying to manage that. Your body, your mind, your body, your brain, trying to basically protect you or protect me in this case. And yeah, it's really horrible. Like that's all I can say is it's like really horrible. It basically felt like hell for a long time. Still does sometimes. And yeah, it's really hard. Like extremely hard. I don't know how to like put it across better, but um, and oh, and then the the sex and the porn stuff. So like that is like super shameful. So that was like really um, shamed in my uh, childhood growing up, and like used to make me like really afraid. Um, uh, because my mom talked to me about that stuff when I was like 5, and it was just like the scariest thing ever. And the way she did it was terrible too. She like took me to the basement, and like it was like a creepy basement, and she like scared the absolute crap out of me trying to like tell me about sex, and it was horrible. And uh so and then I was exposed to pornography way too young, like at age 5. And yeah, so it was just really messed me up. There's no doubt about that um, those sort of experiences will mess a person up. And when I say messed up, I just mean that like it will wire your brain, your 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 brain's circuits will become wired in a, I guess you could say, strange way or abnormal way. I'm trying to put it like, kind of delicately. I don't really care about my own, I'm not saying it to make myself feel good. I'm just saying it because I don't really want to, put down other people. Uh, if they're, I'm just trying to be like descriptive about it, not derisive. But yeah, I do think that it will mess a person up if all those things happen to them. And so, yeah, it's really tough. But I'm supposed to be talking to my therapist tomorrow. I was supposed to talk to them today, but they canceled because they said the cooling in their building was broken, and it was too hot in there. So I'm gonna go tomorrow, and I'm supposed to talk about, well, I want to talk about all these like childhood memories or traumas. Um, and I have like it written down in a binder. And I think it's like really important to do that because it's like basically it's like processing, allowing these things to be um, felt essentially. Because yeah, that would basically help because the nervous system, the brain and the nervous system kind of like hold on to those things and try to protect you by essentially putting the body and the mind, or the body and the brain, into like a protective state, which is either like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And like I said, those are like, essentially low consciousness states. And I don't really think that they're like voluntary, you know? They're just the brain and the body's way of like trying to protect. But I think that um, working through those things, that's important. So, and I think it could help work through those states, and then, you know, help to allow me to go into like to work toward a higher consciousness state too. So, anyways, going. It's all going along basically. Um, yeah. So I'm pretty bored, I must say, because I'm just trying to allow myself to be bored today. I went on a walk earlier. Well, I went to the gym. I ate food. I let myself just kind of like be bored and hang out. Then I went on another walk. And then now I'm making this video, and I'm just like not using my phone, not using the computer. So, yeah. Anyways, just slow and steady, I guess.